The following program does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Bear Psychology Radio Show with psychologist, author, and speaker, Dr. Anna Baranowski, where mind, mood, and what matters to you are discussed. We're broadcasting live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, on Reality Radio 101. So get ready to talk and email us. Our email address is instudio101@gmail.com. And now, right to your host of the Bear Psychology Radio Show, Dr. Anna Baranowski.
Hi everyone, I hope you had a great sleep last night, and today is actually all about sleep. My name is Dr. Anna Baranowski, and we're bearing witness to evolving mind, mood, health. And of course, you know, I'm happy to speak with you. I love to get the emails. They're really terrific to know what's going on with you. And as we talk about this pretty complicated topic of sleep and what can get in the way of good sleep and what it takes to get a good sleep and how important really deep, long sleep is. You know, these are things that can actually make a profound difference in your life, getting enough sleep. And this is borne out in a lot of the current research that we see today. One of the things that is really right on my top of the list today is actually getting good sleep for myself. And I'll just let you know that yesterday I was in court. Of course, I'm not going to talk about the matter, but it was supposed to be a one-day thing, and now I'm going in for another day right after I finished this radio show, which means that last night, knowing that I had to go back today, and this is a file that I'm working on, my sleep was disturbed because my mind was so busy. I'm asking myself questions about, you know, where are we going tomorrow, and what's going to happen, and how is it going to unfold? And, you know, the busy mind will absolutely keep you awake. And, for sure, my mind was very, very busy. But the one thing I've learned about sleep over the years is that it's really important not to fight with your sleep. So if you find yourself in a situation where, for some reason, your mind is a little bit more active, like it was for me last night as I was trying to get to sleep, the important thing is to not get into a battle with yourself where you get agitated and frustrated and annoyed that you're not getting to sleep. Because what that does is it actually gets us in an even more agitated state. So it becomes really important to give yourself some corrective messaging right away. If that's one of the tendencies when you get a busy mind and it's hard for you to sleep, then the first starting place is committing to yourself that you won't get into a battle around sleeping when your mind is busy. And this is particularly true if you've experienced something where you've become agitated. And, you know, most of you know, if you've been listening to me speak for a while, that stress and trauma are areas that I do a lot of work in. And so for me, I see people in my clinic who've experienced something really difficult, and they are struggling with high levels of stress hormones or adrenaline, and these things keep us in a highly activated state for long periods of time, and you have to work a little bit harder to turn down the volume of stress. Otherwise, it's almost it's almost impossible to get to sleep, and we definitely want to be kind of a little sympathetic with our own struggles if we are unable to fall asleep because of something that has been difficult in our life. And I think that is actually a really important thing because there's a lot of information on why you should sleep and how you should get to sleep, how you could get more sleep. But there aren't a lot of people talking necessarily about this whole issue of when you're really stuck with the busy mind, when you're really stuck with the trouble of stress, how do you then get more sleep? Because part of it is really learning how to settle your mind. Now, one of the things that I know works pretty consistently, and, it works for me too, is meditation. And meditation, well, there's lots of research on meditation now and the part of meditation in helping us to train and settle the mind. And the research is pretty consistently showing that as we learn how to meditate, and it doesn't have to be 30, 40 minutes a day. You can do a 5 or 10 minute meditation every day or twice a day, and it will help you to settle down the brain. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have thoughts coming and going. It means that as you witness the thoughts as they come and go, you're more at ease with the content. You can bear witness to the content. And there are studies that show that meditation increases our endorphins and lowers stress hormones like cortisol and maybe even inflammation in the body. And that's really the stuff that's keeping us awake. So it's a great idea to start with meditation, particularly if you have, some trauma or stress in your history, and, this can be particularly helpful. And, there's another research study at the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta that found that meditation lowered blood pressure and reduced the risk of heart attack and stroke. So that's not the only research study on this. There's quite a few. And my husband, who works in cardiology, he works as a cardiac rehab nurse, and part of the time when he goes to work, he's just talking to people about the things that they can do to reduce their cardiac stress and increase their heart health. And he talks a lot about sleep, and he brought home one day this book called Sleep Smarter, 21 Essential Strategies to Sleep Your Way to a Better Body, Better Health, and Bigger Success. And it's by Sean Stevenson. It's really a great book because it really covers a lot of the current research, and it covers a lot of the points that are, really related to sleep hygiene, the basic things you need to do to feel a little better. I am going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about sleep hygiene. I'm going to talk about some other tips and tricks that you can use and why you want to use those tips and tricks. And I also, want to give a little bit of time to, some luminaries who really know a lot about what it means to sleep well and the importance of it. And one of the people who's very influential in the area of sleep is Arianna Huffington, and she's the co-founder and editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post. And in her brilliance, really from her own experiences in life, she wrote a book called The Sleep Revolution. And Huffington believes that we're in the midst of a sleep deprivation crisis that has had profound negative consequences on our society, and that a lot of people who are, really focused on achievement tend to prioritize getting things done to the detriment of sleep. And she has had some realizations about that, and I think it would be interesting for us to listen to Arianna's brief talk right now.
big idea is a very, very small idea that can unlock billions of big ideas that are at the moment dormant inside us. And my little idea that will do that is sleep. This is a room of type A women. This is a room of sleep-deprived women. And I learned the hard way the value of sleep. 2.5 years ago, I fainted from exhaustion. I hit my head on my desk. I broke my cheekbone. I got 5 stitches on my right eye. And I began the journey of rediscovering the value of sleep. And in the course of that, I studied, I met with medical doctors, scientists, and I'm here to tell you that the way to a more productive, more inspired, more joyful life is getting enough sleep. And we women are going to lead the way in this new revolution, this new feminist issue. We are literally going to sleep our way to the top, literally. Because, unfortunately, for men, sleep deprivation has become a virility symbol. I was recently having dinner with a guy who bragged that he had only gotten 4 hours sleep the night before. And I felt like saying to him, but I didn't say it, I felt like saying, you know what? If you had gotten 5, this dinner would have been a lot more interesting. There is now a kind of sleep deprivation one-upmanship. Especially here in Washington, if you try to make a breakfast date and you say, how about 8 o'clock? They're likely to tell you 8 o'clock is too late for you, but that's okay. You know, I can get a game of tennis in and do a few conference calls and meet you at 8. And they think that means that they are so incredibly busy and productive, but the truth is they're not. Because we at the moment have had brilliant leaders in business, in finance, in politics, making terrible decisions. So a high IQ does not mean that you're a good leader, because the essence of leadership is being able to see the iceberg before it hits the Titanic. And we've had far too many icebergs hitting our Titanics. In fact, I have a feeling that in Lehman Brothers was Lehman Brothers and Sisters. They might still be around. While all the brothers were busy, you know, just being hyper-connected 24/7, maybe a sister would have noticed the iceberg because she would have woken up from a 7.5 or 8 hour sleep and have been able to see the big picture. So as we're facing all the multiple crises in our world at the moment, what is good for us on a personal level, what's going to bring more joy, gratitude, effectiveness in our lives, and be the best for our own careers, is also what is best for the world. So I urge you to shut your eyes and discover the great ideas that lie inside us, to shut your engines and discover the power of sleep. Thank you.
So I think that is absolutely brilliant, because what she's doing is she's really raising awareness for all of us to reinforce this idea that really this is not a luxury item, and it's something that we really, really need to take seriously in order for us to thrive in our lives, and why wouldn't we want that? So, you know, I think there are a lot of people who really experience a lot of struggle with sleep. I just got an email. And it says, hello, Dr. Baranowski, listening from Springdale, Newfoundland. Oh, hello. Sleep has always been a problem with me, but more so in my adult life. My doctors want to put me on meds, but I do not want to do that. I've tried better diet, exercise, etc., to no avail. Suggestions? Yes, I do have suggestions, George. There are a number of things. First, what I would really encourage, and I would really start with this for everybody, is, you know, take the time to understand that there are many sleep hygiene approaches that are kind pretty standard. They've been around for a long time, and, you know, that's kind of the starting point, I would say, for everybody, just to make sure that you do a number of basic things. So, you know, you want to really make it your business to get into bed at the same time and get up pretty much at the same time. So when you lie down to go to sleep, you're lying down and you're actually intending to sleep. You're not intending to watch TV. You're not intending to answer emails. You're intending to get into bed and go to sleep. And, you know, that's one thing that's absolutely crucial. The next one is, I said this already, get up at the very same time every morning, even if you are exhausted. And listen, I can really empathize, because this morning I was a little tired, and I didn't really want to get up. But, you know, I know for my own circadian rhythm, like, I want to get up and go to sleep with the sun. I want to have a regulated schedule, and I know that if I don't follow that for myself, if I'm not intentional about my own sleep, then I'll be creating a habit that will undermine my overall well-being. So to me, it's not so much about the bad sleep I got last night, but what can I do every day to ensure that I kind of continue on my own path of being well. If I want to, you know, be helpful to other people, I also have to take care of myself, you know, like you know, I would ask anybody to take care of themselves. So, you know, things can get a little funny, you know, if you're flying for business or a shift worker, you know, then things can get really, really tough. So if you do find that you want to actually set a pattern, see if you are on shift, that you can in some way stop shift working for a period of time, if that's at all possible, or get right back onto a normal rhythm as quickly as you can, so that you're regulating. If you've gone away to someplace and you are experiencing, you know, differences in your time zone, and you're trying to get, you know, back to a regulated sleep, then you want to actually do the same thing. You get up at the same time that you would normally get up in the time zone that you are in. And that can be really difficult, because if you've traveled a far distance, you might be on a very different sleep schedule. So don't take any naps during the day. That does tend to disrupt your sleep in the evening. It makes it harder to get to sleep at night. Some people are so exhausted from kind of lack of sleep, like a chronic lack of sleep, you know, we start to feel really, really unwell, and find ourselves getting into this routine where, you know, we'll just do anything to feel a sense of rest. So, you know, this is one of those things where napping, it's going to interfere with your body's natural ability to kind of get into the different stages of sleep. And, you know, there are different stages of sleep, and, you know, these stages of sleep deepen over time, and what happens is we eventually end up in the deepest sleep. We have dreams, and we need that kind of deep, deep sleep, because it's very restorative. That's where we get that very deep restorative sleep, and we really need to have that feeling, you know, what happens in the body and the brain when you get that kind of deep, deep sleep. And, you know, the brain has these different rhythms. So, you know, there's 4 main rhythms, and they are different frequencies. So we have the beta waves, and this is the rhythm that's kind of the normal, like, I'm awake, I'm talking to you now, I've got beta waves. Alpha waves, and this is like you're really, really relaxed. So you might be meditating or doing some kind of deep concentration, and it allows you to really be kind of in a deep, quiet state. You may be in a deeply awed state. You might be using your imagination, working on something very creative that's kind of focusing your attention. And theta waves These are the waves that are present during a deep meditation or a light sleep. So the alpha waves are kind of gateway to the theta, which is when you start to get into that sleep state, that beginning of sleep state. But the delta waves, this is the slowest frequency, and it is a deep, dreamless sleep. And, you know, some researchers say this can be actually found in very experienced meditators, people who are able to take themselves to a very, very deep and quiet place. And there's a belief in the research that when we get into that delta state, we start to regenerate and heal, and it's pretty critical to our survival. So anybody who's had chronic lack of sleep will be aware that it feels pretty bad, and you can feel very unstable emotionally. You can feel unsettled physically. It can create a very agitated state. So you want to be able to achieve that deep sleep, that delta wave. So now we're going to go back to more of the sleep hygiene rules. Don't drink any alcohol later than 2 hours before bedtime. This is really, really a crucial piece. You really want to make sure you're not doing that. Alcohol is a depressant, and you know, it can actually lead to a restless and not restorative sleep, and even a tendency to wake up during the night. Some people don't kind of really connect to that, because some people start to drink at night and actually think it's relaxing them and it's going to help them get to sleep, but that doesn't really always work quite that way. Now, this is something that I find really interesting. Don't drink caffeine after a certain point in the day. So we have a neuron, adenosine, and it is released, and it signals to the brain that you're tired. We have receptors that will take this product, this byproduct of the brain, adenosine, and it only takes it up, it only receives it if it's able to. But caffeine will kind of close that receptor, so adenosine helps us to understand when we're tired, and helps us to just, you know, relax and feel tired and get into that, you know, preparation for going to sleep. I'm in a tired state, and, you know, now I can go to sleep and it feels very comfortable. But what happens with caffeine is it will block that receptor, and then what ends up happening is adenosine cannot correctly send the message to the brain that you're tired and you need rest. So I understand if you need to use caffeine strategically, you know, if you like to drink caffeine in the morning, that's fine. But, you know, this is important to understand, that caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 8 hours. You need to actually understand that if you drink a cup of coffee, many hours later, it is still not fully active in your brain, but partially active, and it only decreases slowly over time. So for me, it's like I'll drink a cup of coffee in the morning, and generally, unless I've got something that I have to really be awake for, and it's in the later part of the day, I won't drink caffeine, because I pretty much know it's going to keep me up for sure, because I'm like a 1 cup of coffee a day person, so that's all I get. If you are a smoker, so you also want to be careful about smoking, because it also has a tendency to keep us active, keeps our brain active, and so we want to, you know, be pretty careful with that as well, not to smoke, you know, before bedtime, because then there is this possibility that we're going to stay up. Now, the other thing, and some people might not recognize this, I really encourage everybody to exercise, because I find that it is one of the most incredible things to keep you well overall. It helps with anxiety and depression. It just, in general, helps you feel well. Exercise stimulates the body, But if you're exercising vigorously too close to sleep, then it might be actually difficult for you to get to sleep. And it can kind of get you all woken up and excited and engaged, and, then instead of being able to, turn down and, really just, settle, it makes it very, very difficult to do that. So I'm going to continue. There's many more of these, but I also definitely want to talk to other people who are emailing in. We have a whole bunch of emails. So here's another one. This topic is very important. A high percentage of the population have issues sleeping due to stress, their jobs, family, and medication. However, exercise and meditation is a great way to help the problem. I've tried both of those and have been very successful with it. Thank you for your advice. Yes, I love that, Joyce. I agree. It's amazing how helpful these things can be. And there is a lot of research, on how really difficult, an issue this is. This is something that a lot of people struggle with. So if you're struggling with sleep, just understand that there's a lot of new research, and there are a lot of different mechanisms to kind of work on improving your sleep. And I would really encourage you to, not get kind of overwhelmed by the idea of fixing your sleep, but actually take it on and, understand that there are many, many different ways of doing this, and you can educate yourself. Another book that I really liked was Quiet Your Mind and Get to Sleep by Colleen Carney, and she runs a clinic here in Toronto. And, I think that her sleep book has a lot of good materials in it, and strategies as well. And I think that's a really nice thing that, there are a lot of people who are talking about this issue, because it really is such a crucial one for all of us to understand and to feel like, we can have some options. So, continue to find different resources and strategies so you don't feel quite so alone in all of this. So I got another one from James, who says, in regard to the clip, who's the speaker. That was Arianna Huffington, and she is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post, and she wrote the book about sleep called Sleep Revolution, and that book is getting a lot of traction. I'm going to talk a little bit more about her book because it is so very interesting, and she is actually quite a remarkable speaker, and addresses so much of this issue. So what we want to do is just take our time and find good strategies for figuring this out. So the other thing to do is to set up your sleeping environment to make it conducive to sleep. So this really means, like, if there's any light coming into your room, you want to be able to either put up kind of dark blinds or blackout curtains, or something that really kind of makes your area as dark as possible. Temperature is very important. We know that if the room is too warm, it actually makes it hard for us to sleep. The research seems to suggest that sleep is more easy to achieve in a cooler room, and that's very important. Of course, if your mattress is not comfortable, you're going to want to look at whether it's possible for you to find something that is more comfortable for you. Some people have these synthetic sleep mattresses that were very popular for a number of years, that you can kind of sink deeply into the mattress. But the problem with them is that they often leave people feeling very warm. And so they may be physically comfortable to lie in, but the mattress material themselves is warm. So, there are newer mattresses that are on the market now that address the issue of the warmth of the mattress itself, making sure that there's low noise level. So even if it means putting something gently in your ears, so that you are not disrupted by sounds, or maybe using some kind of a white noise machine, that might be helpful for you as well. So the other thing to consider is eating something very, very light, not a heavy meal, but something really very light that has a carbohydrate in it, or possibly a milk-based product that has tryptophan, and tryptophan is also known to help with sleep. I know I'm giving you a ton of information. Just recognize that this podcast is going to be posted. So if there's something on it that you feel will be beneficial to you, you can always run through it at any time. We're going to post it both on our YouTube channel as well as on our podcast, which is going to start running live within the next month, I hope. And I just want to let people know again that you want to email instudio101@gmail.com if you have any questions at all, and that we love to get your questions and have your engagement in all of this. So I definitely want to hear from you. One of the things that this is actually a really meaningful question from John. Thank you, John. Hi, doctor. You mentioned circadian rhythm. Can you please embellish on that, and what is it actually? Yeah, so circadian rhythms, they are basically rhythms that engage a full day cycle. So, like from midnight through to your morning the next day. It's a biological process that actually runs through the entire 24-hour clock, and it's driven by a circadian clock. So what happens is we respond to light and darkness, and the human species, we were never actually meant to be up way late at night. I mean, we have all of these devices and mechanisms to keep us awake. A lot of us have to deal with night shifts, or our scheduling is off because we have a lot of events that are going on, and they keep us up way, way too late every night. We focus on getting tasks done instead of just allowing ourselves to, enjoy our lives and enjoy our sleep. So, that circadian rhythm is really that day-night, where we're supposed to sleep at night and be awake in the day, and that's a light-related circadian rhythm, and it's the rhythm that seems to be most beneficial to our to our sleep-wake cycle, to our ability to tolerate the demands of stress and to get enough sleep and all of these kinds of things. So you really just want to be in a sleep-wake cycle that allows for a natural rhythm, gives you that 8 or even 9 hours of sleep. I mean, for some people that seems like it's impossible. A lot of people tell me they don't get more than 5 or 6 hours of sleep at night, and it's simply not enough in terms of our overall well-being. And we really need to find a way to make sure that we get our 8 or 9 hours of sleep. I try to go for at least 7 hours. I try to achieve 8. If, like last night, I probably just got 5 or 6 hours of sleep, but that for me is not usual. So I know tomorrow, or rather tonight, I'll make it my business to get into bed at a really good time and get my 8 or 9 hours of sleep to make up for yesterday's, for last night's poor sleep. But you really want to be able to focus on your rhythm and finding the rhythm that you can stick with. So, for some people, you're in bed at 10 and you're up at 7 and you get your sleep and you're okay. But I wouldn't go to sleep one night at 10 and another at 1:30 and then try to, kind of find a way to match it all up. It tends to throw us off our schedule, and as soon as that starts to happen, we start to have problems with that sleep-wake cycle. And, I really want to encourage you to, find a way to make sure that you get what you need around that. Okay, hi Larry. So Larry's asking about REM sleep. Now, REM actually stands for this kind of rapid eye movement sleep, and it's actually associated with our dream state. So we know that when we're having this REM sleep, it's actually a really important stage of sleep, and it's something that we all need. But it also gives us an idea that you know that if you're actually in REM sleep, if your eyes are moving and they literally kind of you can see the eyes actually moving underneath the eyelids, that you'll be getting that sleep cycle that takes you into your dreams, because that's where most dreams are occurring. Now, you're going to get into your REM sleep usually within the first 90 minutes of falling asleep, and this cycle, the rapid eye movement cycle, it can go on throughout the night. So you'll move in and out of rapid eye movement, and for most adults, depending on how many hours you sleep, too, you can go in and out of that cycle quite a few times, but it should take up about 20-30% of your sleep. And for infants, it's actually even more. So, and just recognize that also your brain is really active when it's in REM sleep. Now, one of the things that's really interesting, and this is something to keep in mind, I have a lot of clients that will tell me that they wake up from a bad dream, and then they cannot get back to sleep, and it's very distressing and upsetting. And I have a few thoughts about that. Just this idea of the importance of noticing the content of your dreams, and there are a number of different strategies for addressing the content of your dreams that may help you. One is, if you find that you are struggling before you go to sleep, do your best to actually write out some of your thoughts. It's kind of like it holds a place marker for you, so that you're making a commitment to yourself that tomorrow or when you get a chance, you're going to focus on the thing that's that's keeping your mind active, and you make that commitment. So that's one way to address a really busy mind that may then turn into dream content later. That dream content is often not an exact representation of what you are experiencing during your waking day, if you've got something that you're troubled by, but it may be something that is symbolic. So somebody might tell me about going into a big swimming pool, and that there are plush toys in the swimming pool, and the plush toys are swimming around, and that somebody jumps into the pool and starts collecting all the plush toys and taking them out. Now, this may have nothing to do with the individual's personal kind of life experience on a very rational level, but it may have a lot to do on a symbolic level with what they're struggling with. Maybe they feel like they're very vulnerable, and here they are in this big swimming pool, and they're nobody's helping them, and they don't know how to get out. There may be ways in which what the individual has experienced in their everyday life, if you go over that content. So what I suggest is write out the dream content exactly as you experience it, as best as you can. Now, sometimes it's helpful to have a pad of paper, and again, don't use a blue screen. Don't bring your cell phone by your bed, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Don't bring your cell phone by your bed, because that's going to keep you up. But, use a light pen. So that there are these pens that when you press the plunger, the tube inside lights up. But it's a very soft light, enough light so that you can write in a journal and write out the content of your dream, and then read the content of your dream. And don't be attached to what it is. But if what you're reading, if you read it 3-4 times in a row, if you can just sit with the content and notice, what does this have to do with my life today? Symbolically, what do these things mean to me? Or how do these characters in my dream represent me? In what ways might they represent my life today? And just allow yourself to contemplate that and let whatever kind of comes to the surface just surface in whatever way it does. That's a really good starting point. The other thing is actually based on some recent research on how to help people who have experienced significant problems with their dream content. And this is a really great strategy and one that people are telling me has been working really well with them. So the research looks at what happens when people go to sleep, have a bad nightmare, and when they use something like a nightmare retraining process. And the nightmare retraining process might look something like this. So you identify a difficult image or content of the nightmare itself, and you write that out. So remember, I've said, have a journal, a dream journal, and use a light pen that keeps the space in your room very soft. Write out the content of your dream. You take your time to kind of really reflect on that content, and then take the time to rewrite a new outcome or possible direction for the dream itself. And you could read that to yourself quietly or read it out loud and really just imagine the new dream outcome over the old outcome. So what I'm asking you to do is use your imagination and picture this new thing that you would like to happen, this new dream content that you would like to occur, to kind of play over the old dream content. So you're really using your imagination. Now, there is research that is showing that when you use a technique like this, it can really help you settle down that dream content. And a lot of people that I've been working with have been telling me that it helps them to actually fall asleep, because it's almost like it gives them a way to pause that dream content, soften the content, and take ownership of it. Because after all, who's coming up with this dream content if not us, right? So we want to be able to really, take ownership over it and lower the volume of strain when it comes to the content that we're exposed to. Hi, Madden. This is another email. I love your show. Thank you. I know you talked about not going on meds for sleep problems, but is there any time that meds would actually help someone instead of exercise or meditation? Thank you, P.S. If someone goes on sleep meds, do you know the common types? Okay. So, Madden, I don't know that I actually ever said don't go on sleep meds. In general, there are times when sleep meds can really help turn around a chronic sleep problem. I don't prescribe. I'm a psychologist, so I'm not particularly inclined to talk about the kinds of sleep meds. There are many different options, but many of them are really short-term solutions because some of the sleep meds are quite habit-forming and can lead to other kinds of problems. So, for sure, try, many of these other approaches that I have suggested in addition to medication. If you really need medication, then definitely consult with somebody who's familiar with good medications for sleep. And you can do some research online too. There are a lot of really reputable sites. The Mayo Clinic has a good site, and there are other good sites that, talk about medication and options for treatment. But certainly I'm not discouraging you from going on meds if you really need it. I wouldn't exercise late at night. Meditation really can make a huge difference. So I don't want you to discount those things. I'm kind of like throw everything at it. Take up all these different suggestions and really give yourself the opportunity to see what might make a difference for you and really be kind of disciplined about it. I find that often, it's it's hard when you have really chronic sleep problems. We just want to kind of have it fixed, and when something doesn't work after a few tries, the tendency is to just want to put it away. But honestly, I really like being consistent and using things over a long period of time before I make a decision if it works or it doesn't work. And I think there are many things that need to be combined in order for sleep to regulate. So I think that's very important. Okay, some more rules. You also want to kind of clear up any clutter you have in your room. Make your bedroom feel like it's the place that you sleep in. Make sure that if it can be clean, that your sheets are comfortable. Synthetic sheets tend to make people uncomfortable. If there's any possible way that you can get yourself a high count quality bed sheet, it's a good investment because a clean cotton bed sheet can make you feel really comfortable. It's comfortable on the skin. You want the air to be fresh. So if you're able to open up a window for an hour before you go to sleep, and before you get into your bedroom, make sure the room is clear and that it's a relaxing space. And only use your bed for sleeping and sex. And this is all. Now, I wouldn't actually be too concerned if you have, some material that you like to read, like a physical book, not a blue screen, not a screen of any kind. So I would remove any TVs, any cell phones or other, if you're having problems with sleep, these are really important things. So you just want to remove all those blue screens. Some people have, a high tolerance for the blue screen, but, you really want to put it down and just let yourself rest without it. There are a lot of people who are kind of married to their cell phones, and I think that is not very uncommon. As a matter of fact, and this is actually from Sean Stevenson's book, Sleep Smarter. I'm going to read this passage because it's really interesting. The most alarming thing is that 50% sleep with their cell phones right by their sides, and many people actually check message alerts in the middle of the night. Can you imagine? I know. It might happen to any of us, right? So recognize that this is probably disrupting your sleep. So put it on mute or pause or turn it off or put it on airplane mode, whatever you need to do. You want to basically find a way to, remove yourself from the triggers of cell phone engagement. The one thing about cell phones is, every time we get a hit from our cell phone, it kind of gives us a bit of an endorphin rush. So this is really true for most everybody who's on these devices all the time. It's like, oh, who's contacting me now? And if you happen to have a bit of extroversion like I do, getting those little hits throughout the day is kind of an engaging and enjoyable thing. So I totally get it. But what we really want to be able to do is just switch it off because it's not going to help you. So one of the things that those blue screens do, like there's a blue light frequency that's in your cell phone or your tablet, and that blue light frequency keeps your brain active, and it disrupts melatonin. And melatonin actually is connected to that circadian rhythm that we talked about, that sleep-wake cycle that we have to get on, and it interrupts that rhythm, that get-to-sleep rhythm, that wake-up rhythm. So, remember, the reality is that we were never born to have blue screens beside our beds. We are, tribal by nature, and we used to live as human beings, all of us, by candlelight or fire, and our brains just stay active. It was actually, we were not born to be active at night initially, because then we would have become prey, human prey, in early days. And so, the brain would have helped us to get to sleep in our cave or wherever our tribe was, and that was always going to be safer. So roaming about at night wasn't perceived as a safe thing, and our brains, as a survival strategy, helped us to not be active. Now, another thing that I really love, and this is also from the Stevenson book, is this notion of switching off. Now, one of the things that we want to do when we switch off is actually make a point at turning everything off before, at a certain point, you want to turn everything off because you're preparing yourself for the next day. I had a very interesting experience. My dog needed to have surgery on his leg, and as a result of that, maybe on some nights where I might have come home and watched a show, I found myself sitting downstairs in the living room with my dog. He had to sit in an area that was carpeted, and so we didn't have any screens we had no TV in that area, and often it turned into like very quiet evening time, reading, and just a very relaxed space. And what I noticed is I went to sleep really well on those nights, and it was almost like without planning to it, I kind of engaged in this off switch, which was an interesting way of experiencing the off switch, and it turned out to be a really great thing too. So again, the other thing about your bedroom and reading is, for sure, if there's something kind of relaxing that you want to read that isn't for work, and you can just enjoy it, read it, and then kind of put it down, that it's not going to agitate you or keep you up. You're not reading a murder mystery or something like that. That would be probably a really good thing to do. And we have from Monique. Hi, Monique. What advice would you have for someone working in the health field that works shift work? I think you're saying trick work, but I think shift work. As soon as we get used to one sleep cycle, another sleep cycle takes place. As our shifts changed either weekly or biweekly, and that is such a difficult thing to deal with. That is such a hard thing, because you know what, you have the hardest thing to deal with, Monique. That sleep impact because of shift work, it actually it's a huge issue. Now, I know that my husband also works on shift work, and I noticed that he'll try to re-regulate his sleep almost immediately. So if he's on one shift, he gets off that shift, he goes right back into the regulated schedule, and that's a big thing. And I noticed for myself, my husband and I took a long trip early in the year. There was quite a few hours of jet lag, and the only trick that I find really works with shift works and with traveling where you have large jet lag is to, as quickly as possible, even if you are exhausted, stay up to regulate your schedule so that when you go to sleep that first night, you're back onto the schedule that you're going to get onto, because it helps with settling down and kind of preparing your body to be on this new schedule. So usually with the shift work, you'll have a few days where you're kind of re-regulating to the next shift, and that's what I would really suggest. And, using that dark screens or blinds in your room can be incredibly helpful as well, and that can really help tremendously. But all these other things, no caffeine, making sure that you get into bed, that there are no disruptions, that you've got a cool room, all of the things that I've been talking about, and they're all things to kind of add to the routine. I'm not suggesting that this is an easy fix. I think when you do have that funny schedule, you have to actually find a way to make that happen. And it means a lot of focus and dedication when you have a schedule like that. So I want to encourage everybody to really focus on whatever strategies you can put in place. Don't be discouraged. This takes a little while. You are in very good company. There are many millions of people who are struggling with sleep difficulties falling asleep, waking up in the night, waking up too early in the morning, and there are many things that can be added to your day. And I'm just going to finish with telling you a little bit more about relaxation. And I want to talk a little bit about Herbert Benson. Dr. Herbert Benson, he was a Harvard Medical School physician in the 1970s, and he was really working on relaxation techniques and finding natural ways to relax your body. Here are several natural ways to relax your body. And because I love YouTube, and we have a YouTube channel, whatisptsd.com, so it's youtube.com/whatisptsd, and you'll find a lot of different exercises there, but you can just search for online. Progressive muscle relaxation for sleep, guided imagery for sleep, breathing techniques for sleep, and autogenic training for sleep. And I think that you will have an opportunity to really also find some breathing exercises that would help you with sleep as well. I want to wish everybody a good sleep tonight. Thank you so much for the conversation today and taking the time to write in. I hope at some point we'll be able to have call-ins, because that would be even more enjoyable. It's been a real pleasure speaking with all of you today. Have a great day and a good sleep, and we will post this video and podcast shortly. Enjoy.
Thank you, Dr. Anna. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You have been listening to the Bear Psychology Radio Show with your host, psychologist, author, and speaker, Dr. Arianna Baranowski, right here on Reality Radio 101.